Where's my sheriff's book? Okay, who did that? Me or you? That's mine. Just take 25% off the top right now. Let's just go for that.
They're not laughing, Turl.
He's like, really? You made him a 3-star, dude? Come on, I like the Colonel. The Colonel. That was the best. The Colonel.
I know, I was laughing when you called me Colonel one time. I was like,
Colonel. So the brain went to, you had Eagles. Eagles, that's Colonel. I always thought Colonels were better than Lieutenant Generals. That's a 3 stars, Lieutenant Generals. Sound like you pissed off the lieutenant and didn't know what you're doing. You're gonna get us lost. All right, where are we at?
all right, Sheriff Manu, Bannock County Sheriff.
Where do you want to start first?
Where do you guys want to start? Sheriff?
Sheriff. Start Sheriff A.
Sheriff A.
There we are. All righty.
Let's see. Okay, so we, as far as A budget, B budget was kind of a minimal change, so our focus was A budget. So, I guess what do you want to start with A budget?
Just go through your changes, please.
Okay. Changes, well, oh God, it's hard to say on this.
If you want, you can just say high-level overview changes, so it looks like you did a bunch of grade adjustments.
That's what I was looking at.
Yes.
Most of it's all just grade changes.
Most was grade changes, and the biggest grade change was in detention, obviously. But as far as grade changes in the sheriff's side, it was maybe one grade per position was the majority of it. As far as captains, it was more not putting grades on them, just a set number, no steps. So, and keeping them.
Ryan's not going to be a fan of that.
Yeah, he hates
He wants
that.
everybody on the scale.
He wants everybody on the scale. Is there a way to put them on the scale?
Yeah, I mean, we can. I mean, we can put them on a scale.
So my question, I'm assuming that like you have a G14 S8, you're using our existing salary table for that S8
Correct.
estimate.
Because we had no table to go.
Correct.
Other than
Yeah.
the
Okay.
current table.
I was just making sure you hadn't
Yes.
seen something I
So
hadn't seen.
all those are, and I can give you the, I don't know what you guys have in front of you other than this chart. And yeah, it says on there. So those are the changes, basically from, those are the grades that show what we're asking.
Did you
Is-
give step increases or just grade changes?
It was mostly grades, depending on the situation. Most of it was just a grade up, one grade up. So if you look at it, like, if I'm looking at the overview as far as, some of it was, what we did first was kind of the grade adjustments, and then we kind of looked at the internal equity. Like, we had some positions where there was a sergeant that was probably a more newer sergeant that was higher steps than a sergeant that's been in that position for years more. And it was a matter of past adjustments that were made in the past, so that sergeant happened to leapfrog based on where they were at that time. And then when they got promoted to sergeant, they were at a higher step than the sergeant that was in position for 4 years prior to that person. So some of that past adjustments, kind of where that compressions happens in some of those promotions, kind of leapfrog some of these veteran sergeants that were in positions for much longer periods of time, and there was kind of some inequities there. So our goal was trying to get that adjustment back to where it should be. So certain positions in those sergeants that were less senior were less, we didn't affect them as much as they should have been, because we're trying to readjust it according to where. So our first was looking at that, and then the internal equity was where those final adjustments came in. So, and I, like I said, off the top of my list would be the biggest adjustment in the sheriff's side would be dispatch is from 9s to 11s. Right now we're 2 short in there. But like I said, that's going based, and we used all of our adjustments based on what Ryan gave us from comparative to other agencies, which even those numbers were dated. And then I explained to the board, commission board last time, that some of those adjustments that he gave were just titles, and we didn't have job descriptions or anything. So going based on what the job title was and not knowing exactly what those entailed, it was kind of difficult, so we did the best we could. So the majority of those adjustments were, some of them were more, I think the bigger steps were dispatch, 9 to 11, and then on the jail side it'd be the detention side as far as entry-level deputies. That was, I think, in 9 to 11 as well. So
So you felt like the dispatchers were like 2 steps below where they should be?
yes, yeah. I mean, that was probably our biggest, you know, on the sheriff's side. That, and
Are they listed as communications specialists?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about new positions? The only one,
only one, oh, new position was a
Sergeant Civil?
sergeant for civil.
And that's it?
That's it. Which
grade 16?
is a,
On your list of necessity of that position.
Correct.
How,
it's a snapshot of where we'd like to be eventually.
okay,
Does it have to happen this budget year? No,
but it's something that you'd like to get to.
at some point.
Okay.
Whether we do that one way or another, I mean, I have my feelings about it, that there needs to be a number 2 in there at some point.
What is your, you don't have a NCO of any kind? You don't have like a corporal or a sergeant right now?
It's under the it's a marshal.
It's just a
Court
marshal, is it?
It's a sergeant under that captain. That's the next tier in that.
So it just goes
administrative
captain to
sector.
sergeant?
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking for another sergeant in there or another,
Specifically on the overall
okay,
supervisory of that division.
oh, okay.
Because really, the only next rank is the sergeant that's here as a court marshal in that division.
Oh, so those civil deputies that are out, they don't have a,
No. But that position would be in overall, over civil, over court marshals, over
So
training.
so do you need?
Training's really the biggest.
So do you need a
area.
sergeant there, or do you need like a lieutenant underneath as a number 2 with a sergeant
I think
there?
we can
or-
get by with a
Or a
sergeant.
corporal, or,
I think it'd be die with the sergeant because that position, that captain encompasses training
okay.
and extraditions and
So that's, so where you're asking for a civil sergeant, and creating a new position is, instead of creating a new position this year, I mean, if we can't get there, would a possibility be just to give one of those positions a rank increase? To actually make, because you have 2 civil deputies in there right now, correct?
yeah, but they're too new.
2 new? Well, but what I'm saying is I mean, if you put a rank in there of some kind, a corporal or a sergeant or something, and maybe you open it up then and move one of them into another patrol, or move somebody who needs a leadership spot and move them, I mean, just for creative thinking,
Well, and
if
that's
you, for the short
thought.
term.
That's the thought, is possibly getting the thought is getting a certified sergeant in there, because it's going to be over training,
Okay,
because it encompasses training of the whole department.
okay.
Yeah,
So-
really Kathleen, her whole job, she's over all the.
Yes,
training,
she has
too.
everything.
That's a huge
Training.
Yeah, you
position.
can't, yeah,
And the other side of that, if in the future that we're still navigating towards moving misdemeanor probation, it's gonna be under that division.
Yeah.
So at some point, we've gotta have a solid number 2.
Okay.
So, and I don't know where we are with, as far as, I didn't know where the feeling was about still moving towards.
I think that's
misdemeanor
definitely
program.
going to be a continuing.
So-
I think it's sooner or later it's going to go that
And
way.
that's the thought, in the future, there's gotta be a number 2 in there, because, to be honest with you, Kathleen's getting close to being done.
Yeah.
As the years, I mean, I think she's 5 years or less. So, there's really no one there ready to take over. And when that initial move was made, I mean, powers that be at the time, it should have been a certified position.
In your rank structure like that, because as I was looking at like just compression of how that works is, I don't want to make fun of me for this, but I'll just say it. Sometimes making more ranks is actually an easier way to stop your compression. It's like having your levels, because you guys jumped for years, you just had lieutenants, a captain, and then the sheriff. And then there was
Correct.
and now you have, as I looked at it, you have your sheriff, your second, you look at your next field grades is what you'd call it, your bigger division type. Your captains are division leaders.
Correct.
You then have lieutenants that are shift leaders inside the divisions, and then you have your sergeants and your corporals
Who are on the street.
that are on your street division
Correct.
leader. And I just wondered, like, as you look at that, is because you guys jump from captains to you, right? And really, there should be a major in there somewhere, or a lieutenant colonel or colonel. I mean, that's what we call them, but whatever I'm saying. And I just think that might be something in the future because as we start looking at your salary compression and how that's going to go, that's the problem. That's why we like having those captains on the table. Because what I'm afraid of is if we don't have them on the table, then we miss them one year or we do something that.
Well, and it was a matter of trying to keep the captains, no matter what. At the point when you're a captain, they all get paid the same.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the goal was, just keeping them all
Well,
the
no,
same.
and that's what I
Whether
say is-
you're
yeah.
the new captain or the captain
Yeah.
that's
Captain's
been there.
captain's captain.
And that was kind of the goal of trying to eliminate them, putting them on a scale.
Yeah.
It's like, once you reach that point, you should be technically towards the end of your career,
Yeah.
at least years, maybe a few years left.
You've topped out that way, so.
And to keep them on a scale, I mean, you're gonna get those different levels of captains making different monies when really they do the same.
Yeah.
Technically, they got the same responsibility, but
Once you hit a certain amount of years, it doesn't matter if it's 15 years or 30 years, you're doing the job and you're qualified to be the position, so
Correct.
therefore you're there.
and that's kind of the thought of getting them off steps, is trying to get them,
I think you just pin them then, that they're all pinned at the same wage,
and
and
then
they're just,
it's
the
what
captain is.
COLAs is what's gonna affect them.
Yep. Yep.
And that's kind of the thought process. At some point in your career, it's COLAs. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
now that you've established yourself, you're well versed in every aspect of that job to some degree, that really,
Well,
COLAs.
and like
I
I
mean,
said, that
that's-
division is,
that's the thought.
that's the discussion we've been having, and yeah, so if there's that sergeant's position or something, we'll look at that, but just, yeah, we need to make sure that division then, if we're gonna move sooner or later, if that does go there, and if that position retires, and you don't have, we need to make sure leadership is in place before we do something like that.
And that was the goal, and really the bigger picture was if misdemeanor probation was in fact going to be moved under the sheriff's office, that's where they were going to be placed. And really, we're trying to prepare that structure there before that happens.
Yeah.
So,
If you made that change, though, what would you do with the current director for probation? Wouldn't she need to fit some kind of seniority role?
well, as far as, there wouldn't be any rank structure there. I mean, she would maintain whatever her position is as far as,
Yeah.
a supervisor of that little entity,
Because they're not sworn law enforcement officers,
Correct.
and so therefore they don't hold a
But
rank.
they are a rule of 80 now,
Yep.
so
Yep.
it kind of makes sense if they do make that move. But there's a lot of things to be discussed about that move as well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thought, and that's why we did what we did with civil.
Well, and I think that's
servers is making them certified so they can be that presence for, they were gonna be that presence for misdemeanor probation when they do
Yeah.
visits. Kinda like what we do with, Ed and the juvenile probation.
We'll see, and I think before that ends up going that way and moving that, we do need to have, that was one of the concerns, Scott had that before he moved off, but
Right.
that the leadership role and those divisions, and that they actually have the support structure and everything that's there before we do that. So that's something that, okay, if we're gonna put a sergeant there, either this year or next year, however we do that, but we also need to make sure that other leadership structure is there before we just take a division and go here.
Right. And that was the whole point when having conversation with Scott in the past. Well, we don't have the structure yet,
Yeah,
let alone, as far as how we're gonna manage that at that point. And there were some other issues happening in
yeah.
misdemeanor probation at the time, so. But, as far as any other major changes, really the bigger steps were that, like I said, dispatch. They were the more bigger adjustments in the sheriff's side, the majority of them.
How many of those are still open, or have you guys filled?
Two.
You got 2 open? Oh,
Two open. We just offered today
Okay.
a position, so actually one. That person accepted the position today.
Cool.
So currently 2, one just got filled. We'll see if they survive or not. So, and then we're probably within a month, we're gonna hopefully fill the second one. So we're getting there. But that's the biggest adjustment in our A budget for sheriff's side are those.
Okay. No, that's,
Was there any bigger adjustments?
Well, just the jail adjustments.
Well, I mean, on the sheriff's side.
you have anything else on the sheriff's side, budget question-wise? You guys good?
Yep, B budget.
B budget, sheriff's side.
Yeah.
Oh, where did that go?
Those should be highlighted through this book.
Yeah. I've been going through them and looking.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything major question-wise on any of
No,
them.
they were pretty minimal as far as
Yeah.
our B budget. And that was the goal when we sent out the directions to our captains was B budget needs to be minimal. Our focus is A budget, which, I mean, to be honest with you, it was between myself, the chief, and, myself and the chief that really did our A budget, so. And then had Teresa check our numbers. So.
A wise choice.
So, but as far as B budget, I think sheriff's.
Sorry, I gotta tell you this, very quick. I looked over at the fiscal year 22 6 months expended, and it's 1 million something. I'm looking at your B budget ask, I'm like, for saying it's not much of a change, dude, you added $1.6 million here. Oh. It should be Monday.
Your increase in computer supplies is
Yes,
$6,300.
and that was
What's that
something,
one?
that was
Adam request?
That was an Adam, they worked closely with Adam.
They went through all the
to
different
figure out
computers.
which ones need it, so
it's
that was basically an Adam
Yeah.
and Scott adjustment. And he worked closely with them and all the computers on the sheriff's side and the jail side.
Yep, perfect.
So-
10 of them going.
Yeah, we definitely directed, you
seen the
need to
mini
get with
boxes
Adam.
yet? They don't put
And
them in.
Adam kind of makes that determination, so.
Sweet.
Talk about the education bump up.
That is training.
Computers.
It's all about training because we have so many new people and training's huge for us as far as keeping new guys. Well, we're constantly training. That's hiring and training.
Yeah. So on training, it's just not, it's just not the initial post stuff, though.
No.
It's
Well, obviously.
recertification of less than lethals,
Recertification
lethals.
and mandates that you have to have so many
Okay.
hours every 2 years. But that also adjusts when you have new employees, it's constant.
That was kind of my question. Do you have enough new employees to justify that $13,000 jump in the training?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Well, and the other part was, where did, you know, when you guys put out, as far as leadership training,
Yeah, that's where it's in there.
that's where
too.
we gotta add some of
Okay.
that too, whether, because I wasn't sure,
No, that's fine.
okay, so where do we put that? As far as, if we're gonna ongoing leadership training countywide,
No, I
there's
think
some of
that's,
that in there added as well, so.
well, and I think that for you guys, you had did all of your captains go through leadership training this year?
I think
Yeah,
most of them did, maybe one didn't.
Well, I would see then in that training budget then, I think it's something that we talked about last year, but I think getting in your next level, all your lieutenants and
Right.
maybe some of your sergeants and start getting into that.
Because I do believe you guys put out that it was gonna be, we're tasked to put it within our budget to
Yeah.
train, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
On ongoing
Yeah,
county
there's
leadership.
some stuff we'll do countywide, and then if you want additional, then that's
Okay.
on you, or if we want to partner on some of the countywide stuff.
You guys gonna have enough, is that in for training budget, range time,
Yes, all that's,
especially you're switching
every bit of
calibers?
training's there.
You're
Yes.
switching weapon systems, you're still using that flipping Tupperware.
Tupperware, yeah, I get it.
Flipping Tupperware.
You gotta go with what's been good to you.
Flipping
I
Tupperware,
mean,
man.
And on your leases, you guys are now up to
The
16?
third year, right?
and 16 leases total, right?
Is it that many?
I show in 21.5, 22.6.
Yeah.
23.5,
Yep,
so we're up to 16 just with you guys.
To include the van,
Okay,
the jail van.
okay.
Yes.
And since we're in our third year, did we do some of those 3 years and 5 years on that first
On
year we
the-
started
on
doing
that,
this?
well, was it on the
No,
initial?
Five.
They're all, yeah,
We're all five.
I think they changed them to 5 on a couple of those, because that's what they had to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So we
I just
should
remember
be-
the discussion.
Ramping back up to the point of where we were,
But we are
where we were
alternating,
at the purchase price.
Yeah.
we are alternating residuals and then buybacks
Yeah,
to cover stuff like Wes needing a rig. That way we own the cars and we can rotate cars out to like, things like Wes
yeah.
and other,
We're gonna need to meet on that,
right.
because that's gonna play into my reporting
Yes.
starting this year. So I'm gonna need to know which ones we're leasing and which ones we're getting rid of and which ones we're gonna
Yes.
start keeping.
And they've got when they get these cars in, they've got cars that are ready to go. So they'll,
I just need to know the rationale and the mindset of what we're winning and why,
okay.
so that I can
We're gonna get
appropriately-
rid of the worst cars of anywhere in our division.
Yep.
Like engine problems, you know.
If you have ones that
high
are good,
mileage.
instead of, I know that there's some that might have equity in them to sell off, but like I said, if there's one that's a decent Yukon Durango, something
Correct.
that's nice that, hey, and by nice, I mean the engine runs and it'll get you from
Right.
point A to point B. Those are the ones that we want to look at to keep for,
Well, it's like,
those guys.
it's like some of the current marked units will go to the civil
mhm.
servers, and their cars, which are pretty still decent, we'll strip those as far as the striping and get, because they're still decent cars, at least one of them is.
Mhm.
And then that'll stay within the fleet to go wherever. It's
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, they're definitely mitigating, getting rid of the worst cars.
Yeah.
that-
Any of the ones that we've blown engines up in and had to replace,
Correct.
get rid of them.
Yeah, Durangos we want to get rid of.
Yeah.
Because they've been horrible.
Well, and I rode along that one night with, in the Durango and then jumped in one of the Yukon or Tahoe or whatever, and there's a big
Big
difference.
difference.
Big difference. And makes a difference for those guys,
Even for the little guys with all that gear on.
yeah.
Well, it was, we had to transport a dude in the Durango. It was even with all your gear and all your stuff and just where everything's at, it's like, it'd be better to have.
Yeah, and then too, on those ones too, those Tahoes or the Yukons, when we turn those back in, we're gonna get better monies on those too because of the value.
Everybody wants them.
Yeah.
And then the only other one that's probably a little different is the, where it says vehicle maintenance repair. We found out with some of those leases, so one of the brand-new vehicles that came in had a warranty issue, like the heat wasn't working or something. So we took it to the dealership to get it fixed under warranty, and they says, well, you need to take this, the certain equipment that you guys have put in there needs to be removed before we'll touch it, because we don't want to be responsible. So, obviously, the people that installed it, we had to pay them to remove it, to have that even car looked at for warranty work. So, that's something new that we faced this year. We're like, oh, we better, and I can't remember what it was, like $600 whenever that issue comes up. But we go back to the people that install all our equipment. That way they can do it. They know how they put it in, so it's, and we take it to the dealership that's right next to that installment place, and they actually take the vehicle over there for us for any kind of, so it's stuff like that that had to be adjusted. That if there's any warranty work, we're finding out those dealerships won't touch it unless we remove the equipment, so they're not held responsible for it if they happen to screw something up. So, K-9 budget, that 11,899. That was more, the increase there was the vet issue, vet costs. So, and we're still maintaining 2 dogs. Historically, we've had 3. We're going to maintain 2. So we don't see the need for a 3rd dog, cost-wise, and so.
I really did like in your patrol vision, night vision.
It's there.
No, seriously. Going out, we were out one night and there was dudes, you wouldn't have seen them.
And fuel, obviously, that's a no-brainer. And that fuel estimate was gone through with Tyson. He estimated it. He gave us that estimate based on our usage, $3.55 a gallon, $3.50 a gallon at 55,000.
You guys might be doing a lot of patrol using the Chevrolets instead of the.
Well, I'll tell you what, we just had bike patrol school class, and we have 10 dudes on bike patrol now.
I saw their bikes out on their
Biggest we've
trucks,
ever
so I was
had.
figuring they're
So we're
out.
pushing that. That class is all done, and now we've got 10 guys that are on bike patrol that are.
How does that bike patrol work? I mean, what route are you traveling that you,
It's all the small towns.
so when you pull into McCam and
They
you
get on
park
their
your car
bikes.
and
Yep. So it's the biggest. We've never had that many people on bike patrol. So
are you using that a lot in Lava
yeah,
on
Yep.
the weekends and
that's
stuff?
kind of what we push. All the small towns, especially Lava, we encourage them to foot patrol or bike patrol
Get out and say
for a
hi.
couple reasons. Gas, obviously, and just getting fused in that community. And usually in foot patrol during the summer, it's just the presence is a good deterrence when they see you out there instead of just driving. It's almost impossible to drive through there anyway. So,
Yeah.
and it's funny, our guys seem to like it. So,
Yeah, it's kind of under their discretion on the times they do that, but, and one of the reports I just saw here not too long ago, they even arrested somebody with a stolen vehicle off of bike patrol.
and a DUI
And
on a bike
yeah,
patrol. Damn, that's
So-
pretty funny.
Pretty cool, some of the things they're finding on their bikes, it's pretty
Nice.
amazing.
Nice.
Well, hey. It's amazing they pulled over for him.
Well, in Lava, you can't drive that fast. There's too many cars.
There's no way, yeah, you can't
Yep,
drive.
well, yeah.
That's faster
You
than a
know,
bike.
And it's
and we're trying to push Lava in the summertime, shutting down Main Street, just make it foot traffic.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And that's something we proposed to them. And I don't know, they're coming in Monday to the sheriff's office, and we're having a meeting with them as far as there's a couple of their council
Well,
members.
just tell them, if you want to shut down Main Street, the price for us is this. If you don't want to shut down price, it's going to be this. Power of the purse talks.
Right.
Well, no, it's, that's good. I was out the other day and saw guys with bikes on the back of their trucks, so.
Yeah, I saw that too. Wonder, how's that work?
Wow,
We're gonna ride from Lincoln to McCammon.
So obviously, if that civil sergeant happens or not, we'll make the adjustments in the budget because we did account for equipment and
Yep.
all that. So that's also, if it doesn't happen, we'll take out what we need to take out. So.
Okay.
Call Teresa and say, what do I take out? or
Yeah,
something.
and we've got it all highlighted, so we know what that
She's
affects.
here to call her and she was supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah, that was funny.
Okay.
You want to move to jail? Or
Okay.
is that it for sheriff?
That's it for sheriff, unless you remember.
No,
anything. Jail A budget, biggest adjustment, I will say, is corporals and detention deputies. I think 2 grades. That's to reflect the stipend that we gave them to retain them, which worked. It seemed like, other than, some of them, we've had a couple that left for Pocatello PD. I mean, those are the norms. But we haven't had a lot of people leaving, other than for state police, Pocatello police. It's not just, they're just leaving for,
Lowe's.
yeah. So, those stipends, but we did make some adjustments as far as probably the biggest one is corporals and the jail detention deputies. And that's mainly to get them to that competitive market level. Sergeants was 1 grade, and I believe that's it, normally. I mean, the other was maybe one grade, so.
Okay, so this is gonna be a tough one. You have 6 detention deputies
I know.
that you're asking for.
That's a snapshot of where we'd eventually like to be, if
But-
we were full.
But what I'm asking though is okay, if you're looking at it, 6 is where you'd like, where we'd like to get in the next little bit. What are we looking at? I mean, legitimately, we gotta have at least 1 more, we gotta have at least 2 more, we gotta have at least, where are we at right now? Because we're still down. How many, are we fully staffed now? That's what I'm getting at.
10, I know,
But that's what I'm getting at is right now. So if we can't staff them, and this is just the question that I'm getting at, is if we have 10 openings or how many I don't know what we have right now
10.
today. So we have
today,
10.
10.
Let's just say on average we haven't had to fill 5 all year.
Correct.
And we want to add 6 more. That would create 11 openings that we still haven't been able to fill 5.
Correct.
As I look for departments that are asking for people, I would prioritize your civil sergeant over those 6 then. I would, who was in here, the coroner's office asked for evidence,
Evidence tech.
an evidence
These are
death
all
investigator
very
type. And so, but that's what I'm saying is I'm helping to
And
prioritize this in my
I
head.
100% understand that. I'm just giving you a snapshot in a perfect world.
Everybody in the jail getting a pay raise
is where
versus
we'd
6
like to be.
deputies, that's,
And
That's
I
what-
knew it wasn't.
That's kind of where my head's going with what I am thinking will go in the clerk's recommendation is let's pay the people we have.
Correct.
Rather than get,
And I will tell you right now, that's the ask, and we told them, here's exactly what's gonna go down. You can't even fill the positions you can, but I get, in a perfect world, this is where we'd
Well,
like to be
and-
someday.
and what it does
But
too.
unless you ask and unless you show the need, it's always the first time.
Yeah.
right.
This
You know what I'm
is-
saying?
Yeah,
But
sure.
I understand where you're coming from, and I explained that, and like, this is what's gonna happen. They understand.
Sure.
And we understand that the importance right now is our current vacancies.
Yeah.
And this is just to show you, if things were perfect, this is where we need to be.
Okay.
So,
But yeah, like the ask like this, it's just what you said. It's when you start seeing it, hey, you're planning out, you're buying things that are leading to an overall goal and objective. It
Correct.
makes a lot more sense than, I hate it when departments walk in and, nope, we're fine with the employees, and then the next year, we need 25 new.
correct.
Yeah.
This is definitely future,
Okay.
especially knowing the current vacancies we have. I knew I know it's not gonna happen. But, like I said, I don't ever want to come in here.
make
But you
This
never,
is the first time
but you
we've ever
never know
asked.
in the budget, that the way the budgets shake out sometimes, if, hey, there might actually could be 1 new position somewhere, or there could be,
Right.
maybe there's a deputy that could be had, but you need to know. But at the same time, it's just one of those things that,
Correct.
I'm just trying to get it in my head
No.
of where we need to go with
I
some
can
of
tell
this
you,
stuff.
the chief and I came here not expecting those to be granted.
Would you just real quick explain the difference in your overtime for me, the overtime versus the 207K overtime? What is that?
So 207K is basically a law enforcement police that you can work them up to 86 hours without paying overtime. That's what 207K is. It's normal time up to 86. Then after 86 hours, it becomes overtime. So you're saving, but when you're in the jail, they work 12-hour shifts, so their regular 80 hours is 84 hours every pay period, but it's normal time.
Okay.
So until they breach that 86, that's when they go into
Yeah.
overtime. So with our short staffing, it's happening.
Right.
So, which has a lot of other side effects with burnout and stuff. So that's kind of the difference.
Okay.
Where all of the law enforcement side of the uniform, basically, or all that 207K.
So
That's
you'll
what
have
that
that in the
is.
sheriff and the jail and court marshals.
Right.
Correct.
I just didn't understand the difference.
Yeah,
between
so you
normal
have-
overtime and 207.
Correct. So it's not like, so you have to kind of plan at over 80 hours, up to 86. That's where that 207K comes in.
Okay.
So that's why we have that 207K and overtime.
Okay, thank you.
So, which overtime does happen as you get more short-staffed.
Right.
So, but yes, and then all those adjustments in our B budget obviously reflected those 6 deputies. So with that, no, we know that's coming out when that doesn't happen. So,
So then theoretically, the difference in the 207K would be roughly $12,000 instead of the 32.5, if I understand your note correctly.
the difference?
Yeah, because right now.
Yes, it's figuring in those 6 positions.
Yeah, so take it, right now you're asking for 32,500 more, take out the 6, it's really only 12,500 more.
If you look in the book, Teresa's already got it
Correct.
calculated for you.
Yeah,
This includes 20,500 for the 6 new
yeah,
employees.
I was
so
just,
we'll take out the
I was just
25.
confirming
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're
Okay,
we plan for
Plan.
adjustments. So, we know it's 2 ways, we understand that, and I get that, but like I said, the goal was, yeah, perfect world, this is where we like to be. But the reality is, I know it's not gonna happen this budget cycle.
so between the sheriff and the jail, you're gonna have 24 computers replaced this year.
I believe so,
If I read the note correctly, then.
and like I said, that was an Adam.
It's just part of the 5-year
Yeah.
rotation that everybody's on, so.
Well, and they'll,
Have you guys heard any more departments that are tallying through that 5-year replacement? I haven't really seen anybody with a big.
they went through a lot of the
Last year we did a
computers.
lot.
Yeah, a lot of the computers that, from last year that, and they even said last year would be the sheriff's office and the jail would be the ones that would actually be the ones who'd be up for
Right,
computers.
because I thought they'd done a big chunk of them last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I think we did,
Well, they just did another, I was in there a couple weeks ago, and they must have had 50 computers in there they were rotating out right now.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I just hadn't seen any other departments with a big computer budget.
no,
So I
we'll
was just-
we'll verify when we do the court's recommendation with Adam that everybody that's asked is appropriate
okay.
and that nobody's been missed.
so yeah, A budget, like I said, the biggest adjustments were deputies and corporals. Because that's where the last big adjustment they made at the sheriff's office 3 years ago, they dropped those for some reason, I don't know why, but they did. And it created this big, well, where we are now. So it's trying to readjust them appropriately. And I believe it was 2 grades, which is essentially kind of put them where we are as far as the incentives. But also the sergeants were not adjusted like the incentives that we gave them. Sergeants are gonna actually probably, well, they're not gonna get, they won't maintain that same incentive that we gave 10.
So you didn't take into account any kind of COLA?
No.
Okay, so if we did a COLA, that could possibly change the number of grades somebody needed to be adjusted, depending on the percentage of the COLA, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, is the COLA gonna be a scale COLA
Yeah.
or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
If we do a COLA, it adjusts the scale.
okay.
But we haven't even talked on that yet. We're gonna
But
talk
we
about
did,
that
we
next
went
week.
through every single person
Okay. But I was just-
personally. And I've got, I mean, we've got it on the, I've got a chart here that if you wanted, it's,
I was just thinking if we did, and I'm just throwing numbers out there because we have not talked about it, say we did a 4% COLA and your jail people needed to be adjusted by 10%. If we moved them 1 grade plus the 4% COLA, that would give them an 11%.
right.
So, and then if we threw steps in there, that would throw another
Right.
percent in there, but just trying to gauge what we're gonna look at and what you would need to do. with
And
the
some of
guys.
it was for like the corporals, that was another one of those trying to adjust them so that we got rid of some of that internal equity where some of these newer
Open up.
corporals were like, and kind of getting them back in alignment with where they need to be as far as compared to the senior ones that are, and then we have senior corporals that are maxed, that are no movement at all, which as those grades move, it gives them that steps, ability to have steps.
Okay.
However, we decide to utilize steps. So,
Well, and you guys dropped your B budget.
a lot of it was that PILT that was put in, PILT and,
Well,
but yeah, you're
we
right.
had 3.2 million, plus there was $1 million budgeted in general. So that was 4.2.
And we cut back on projects.
That didn't take into account Phil, so yeah, that was big.
You got
decrease.
all your projects last year.
Well, that was the thing,
So-
and that was the whole point. When that came out, I was like, okay, we gotta get these, if we can do these, knock out these projects, that'll help us for the next budget year.
Yep.
Nice.
And that was the thought process. And it happened, and it's, it was a hell of a lot of work for Levi. I mean, he's still,
I busted it.
he's still busting it, but we're still waiting.
Yeah.
Well, we still got the roof project, and I don't know where that's at. So,
We'll roll that over if we need to.
but
But
it's,
that's gonna help us out with,
Yeah.
but that was the whole goal was, okay,
Get it
we gotta
done.
limit, but do what we can in this budget.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to do as big of a adjustment for the,
Would you talk real quick about the alternate incarceration
Okay.
and the indigent medical?
so 60.
I was happy. We only had 65,000 in alternate incarceration.
Well, in
I about jumped on the table on that.
FY22, we didn't fund that or the indigent medical, and so.
it was
just-
in,
It was in a
in
different.
general.
It was in
It
general
was just
fund.
in-
Yeah.
yeah.
That was part of the million, it was
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
Well-
alternate incarceration, that's,
3 years ago, it was $495,000.
yeah, that's a crapshoot. I mean, it depends on the situation in the jail. I mean, it's,
Well, and it also depends upon,
Well, I just forgot that it was in general, so
Yeah.
that's why my
So we had
question.
65 in alternate this year, 750 in medical, 750,000, and then 230, wait, my lines are, let me use my ruler. 230 in medical, 750 in repairs and maintenance, and 65,000 in alternate.
Okay, never mind.
and the
Yeah.
problem with our indigent medical now is Portnoy billing us giving us invoices on time. Right now, we're not getting invoices like till 2 months later, so it's hard for us to, and she'll call, God, I need these billings, and it's been
You're,
a pain.
aren't you on a board with Jordan? There's, yeah, Bannock Development.
He's not on the board.
Oh. Maybe that
And
would
then
be
our,
something
as
if you
far
want
as
to try and talk to
indigent
their.
medical
their-
in the future, and I don't
Reach
know
out
what
to
we're
them.
gonna do with the coding with Medicaid rates when that goes away, because right now it's kind of like, the person that's doing it is not gonna be doing it for very long. So, who is it? It's,
Chantel?
No, she's
Oh.
he's talking about the
Oh,
person up
the
at the
hospital.
hospital.
Oh.
yeah. And they do all the coding for.
Jenny?
I can't remember her name, but they're saying that whole service is going away.
Yep.
So whether it's we get on the negotiations with a flat rate or some kind of rate, I don't know. That's kind of our concern on what we're gonna do with Portnoy when that goes away, as far as adjusting coding for those Medicaid rates, which is gonna go, Chantel has access to it, but as far as Portnoy, it's, I don't know. And I think every county's in that same boat, because I called Bonneville and they go, yeah, we're in that same boat, because their coding person's going away as well. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's something you guys approach as far as with Portnoy to figure out what we're gonna do in the future.
Yeah, that's a
I'll
tough
reach out
one.
to Jordan
Okay,
and see if we can set something up to come and talk.
okay. and their billing.
Yeah. Well,
I
we'll
think
start
they're
with,
like
we'll
3
start
months
with Jordan. Let him light a fire somewhere.
Trying to see major.
So on your projects list
Mm-hmm.
for FY23, do you have those prioritized?
Yes, we do. And we can,
On the capital sheet, maybe?
I don't know if it's on the capital sheet or in the booklet. Yeah, I know it's in the book.
In the
Oh, yeah,
booklet,
I
page
see
nine.
one,
It's
two,
in the book,
three.
1, 2,
Yep.
they should have be in parentheses,
Yeah,
1, 2,
1, 2,
3.
3, got
Yep.
it.
Do you have anything over, just to jump forward a little bit, because capital's outlined, just your court marshals on your courts?
Oh, that'll be the next department we look at.
Oh, well, if Tony had anything, I'm leaving here
Oh,
in 2 minutes,
okay.
so I was just asking right quick if the highlights or anything
Let's
crazy.
jump to that real quick.
Okay,
So look back, how did you label it? Oh, there you go.
That doesn't
Can't
make
get
any sense.
easier than that.
It's over there on the right, just under that.
I think that biggest one is the new
I'm on a,
security system in the doorways.
okay,
That's kind
I
of
was just
big.
reading over there. Okay,
And I know we've had a couple meetings on it, they've had demos done, and I think the next is coming to you guys on a work session,
okay,
just to kind of look at it and see
Yeah.
where you guys want to. Judge Nass, Kerry Hong, they were in the last demo
Yeah,
with that security system.
we heard about it a little bit yesterday.
So the next is probably setting up a work session and you guys seeing if that's where we want to go.
Okay.
That's the biggest difference right now, so.
How much is that system?
are all of your court marshals, they were all either patrol or jailers, weren't they?
Jail.
All jail? Can they
They're still
go,
certified.
can they go work out in the jail if they need to?
Can they what?
Could they work extra shifts in the,
They-
I'm like,
they
if you
do.
guys had shifts open,
On our, when we were hurting,
they'd go out and help?
they go out in there and do the overtime and
I was just curious about
Yeah.
that the other day, I was just wondering, you
they'll do
know,
transports. They go out there and do the video courts.
yeah,
So they're all familiar with it.
Yeah.
And that's part of and they're part of the adjustments as well, as far as getting them to the same adjustment as the detention, because the requirement's gonna be, you guys can very well.
well,
get
and
back in the
if they're
jail.
basically the same thing where you can rotate them in and out, and,
Correct.
and again, and you might have and if you have them at that same level where everybody's using the same thing, you never know if there might be a leadership position where one of them will come in and out, and you
Right.
can use them to.
Well, we just had a corporal opening in the jail and one of them put
Yeah.
in for it.
Well, see, and so that's what I'm talking about, and I think it's good for the jailers that even if they're gonna be out there in leadership, to come out here and work
Correct.
courts, because it's a different,
Well, and that's kind of, the thought is to navigate towards more of that,
yeah,
so.
because I mean, it would give a lot more, yeah.
So that would be the other adjustment in the A budget, was them being adjusted the same as the detention,
Okay,
because really they're certified the same.
okay.
So on the security, that system, I mean, this system is really old. So it's 150 to buy, to do the whole courthouse, right?
It's gonna be a lease option. There is a purchase option, yeah.
Well,
So if we,
There's a couple options. I asked for the purchase option.
so if we buy it, then, I mean, it's a system that, yeah, it's $150,000, but it's gonna last us 20 years, potentially, like this one has.
That's the question.
Mhm.
But you know how everything else goes, they're wanting you to replace it.
And
every
hand
5
wands are
years,
pretty
right.
expensive,
You
pretty
know?
cheap, man, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
seriously.
You know? Yeah, you're right. And that's why I asked for the purchase, because when they first presented, it was a lease option. I'm going, well, what's the purchase option?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta get back to you with that.
You know, the last time I
I
went
don't
through
think
Ada
we'll do
County, I
these.
actually was wanted in. They actually, just because they needed more, because you've been in their courthough, right? Where you go
And
in
which
and-
county is it?
Ada. You know when you go into Ada and they have all the booths, they had such long lines because booths were taking forever, is they actually just had deputies or their security personnel that literally they just had a hand wand and just wanded everybody in because they could go faster.
I think the concerns on that with the purchase option, because I went to those meetings with it, is just the fact that, you know, the company comes back here 3 years, 4 years from now and says, oh, well, your equipment's outdated now, and so now you're gonna have to purchase the new equipment anyway to update the quality.
The
or
software
To make the
update.
software work, yeah. So that was the concern with the.
Did you sit through one of the demos at all? I mean, it's a good system, and it's,
I need to excuse
All right.
myself. I have to go to
Okay.
PDA. So y'all have
All
fun.
right, see you later. You can then close us out probably, Nancy. Let's, yeah, I guess we'll keep it going anyways.
So,
These are officially clerk
need to-
meetings anyways.
true, but did we, since we opened it as a commissioner meeting, do we need to close it as a commissioner meeting now?
And then just,
Since we
So,
started the
yeah,
record?
because we don't have a full board.
full.
Correct.
And so if,
Wow.
let's do this as, we can close it as a commissioner meeting and, gosh, you can still do minutes,
but do you want to stay
but
streaming?
and we'll stay streaming, but, we'll just have unofficial minutes of the budget meetings from here on out. And then, rather than commission minutes,
Yeah.
I guess.
Dance we do.
Yeah.
Well, and there's really, it doesn't look like they're charging us more if we did a lease, it's just having another lease, so.
yeah,
It's gonna wash regardless
right.
of the price, so if we pay it outright, then we're just not budgeting for it for 4
Right.
years.
The lease, it's more you get all the updates as they come. Does that make sense?
So is there so there's gotta be some sort of a maintenance agreement with it that costs something?
I think with the lease, that's in it,
It's in it, but with the purchase, you should be able to do the same thing.
probably.
Because the dollars equal. I just did
Correct.
the math.
I
Yeah.
just did the math too.
Yeah. So,
And we've got reserves, so.
yeah. It'll probably be a purchase.
So it's definitely more flow friendly as far as the security system. I mean, it's,
A little quicker.
the real practicality would be up at the wellness center during concerts. My gosh, that they just flow people through there, and that's kind of how it's set up now through that demo. They use them at the Delta Center and all that.
Oh.
The same
yeah.
system.
Same type of system?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
So stadiums, they use them at football, like NFL stadiums. It's kind of that same setup. So, but that's probably the biggest difference in the court martial.
And then we've got 2 potential retirees.
2 potential, but I think we are only planning on 1. So. And four potentials in the sheriff's side.
I saw that note, but most likely nobody going.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're doing uniforms through A again? for the
Yes.
Court marshals? Okay.
And then I guess on the, we probably talked about that sheriff's side, the uniform, the only difference in the uniform was we had a portion of the detectives, they're going back into the full uniform. When we tried to turn from it initially, but now that, oh, we better go back to it. So we're putting that back into the full uniform allowance instead of partials like we
Okay.
did.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
anything else? Major?
Once we look at revenue, we'll probably be coming to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I know. No high expectations here.
So Chantel is watching.
That's why she popped in.
That's why she popped in. She has an answer for the,
Coding?
yep.
Okay.
So if you have a question about that, we'll talk to her about it.
Okay, perfect.
If you have a question, curious right now, you could stop and talk to her. I wondered why she popped in. She texted me and I didn't see it, so
It's like, I know she didn't have a meeting.
that was funny. Okay. Is that it?
Anything else?
You got anything?
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
No?
Well, as usual, we'll have a ton of questions for you and
I know.
Teresa when we get to it.
Fully expected.
Let's see, what's our next time?
11:30.
Okay, so we'll take a break until 11:30 then.
All right. Thank you, guys.